Hi, welcome to this tutorial. Today, we will explore how to navigate the MEDprofiles figure to analyze our data, create time points, and export the data as static CSV files. So, the MEDprofiles module is situated in the Input module, and to visualize your data, you need at least a MEDclasses folder and a binary file containing your MEDprofiles data. If you're unsure how to obtain this data, please refer to the previous video, MEDprofiles Prepare Data. Well, here is a MEDprofiles figure. The data I used was obtained from the testing phase of MEDomicsLab. Here you can see that we have our figure on the left, with some tools at the bottom right in the figure, and some other tools on the right. The points in the figure are displayed by classes and dates. Also, each patient have a unique color. As we have 200 patients, some colors are really similar, and it may be hard to distinguish one patient from another. If you overlap a data point from a patient, all of its data points will be highlighted in the figure. In order to visualize your data, you will be able to zoom in the figure through different ways. First, you can choose the zoom tool at the bottom right of the figure. Then you will simply have to select the area you want to zoom in on. Then, if you want to step back in your zoom, you can simply press the zoom reset button at the bottom right of the figure. Another option is to click on the restore button, located in the same place, to revert to the original figure view. Another method to zoom in on your figure is by using the axis slider. You can narrow down the range of each axis you wish to see, focusing on data between specific dates and pertaining to particular classes. To restore the original view, click on the Restore button. Here, you can also remove certain patients from the figure by deselecting their identifiers in the legend. This method can be used to observe the data of specific patients independently by deselecting all the other patients when you don't have a lot of patients. Let's now focus on the tools implemented on the right side of the figure. The Separate Horizontally button allows you to separate points that are overlapping to see all your data. For example, if two patients have a value from the same class at the exact same date, and their points are overlapping, this option will move one of the points next to the other. With a lot of data like in this case, it may be hard to see the difference, but with a smaller dataset, this option may be useful. The Separate Vertically button will separate all the patients. The axes will not be the classes but the classes per patients. In fact, if you zoom in on the figure, you will be able to observe all the data from a patient, independently from the other patient's data. You also have the option to make the data relative to a class. That means that for all the patients, we will consider their first data point from the relative classes time 0, and that all their data will be based on the time that happened between time 0 and the considered data. This will allow aligning all the patients' data at time point 0, regardless of the original dates the data was recorded. Here, you will see that the dates axis has been converted to the number of days from time 0. This option will help you define static time points. Using this option, you can also observe each patient's timeline independently. Feel free to set the relative time through different classes and observe which one provides more interesting results for defining time points. Here, I'm going to set the time relative to the end discharge class because, in my case, this defines the end of the first visit for each patient. Then, I will be able to define my first time point as the data from the first visit for each patient. So, there are two ways to define time points. The first one is to select your data points using the horizontal selection tool at the bottom right of the figure. Let's do this now. After clicking on the selection tool, I'm going to select all the data before day 0. When I am satisfied with my selection, I may press the Set T1 button under the option Set Time Point to selected data points. Now that my first time point is set, as you can see in the figure, I'm going to move my horizontal selection to define the second time point. Once I'm satisfied with my selection, I'm going to choose 2 under the Set Time Points to Selected Data Points option and press Set T2. Here, you can see that some information is displayed about your time points. They are highlighted in the figure, and you also have the number of data points associated with each time point in the right panel. Additionally, you can delete a time point by simply pressing the cross button associated with the time point you want to remove. Plus, you can define as many time points as you want. Once you have defined your time points, you will be able to export them as CSV tables. Here you have two options. You may simply press the Export Time Points to CSV button, or you can check the Merge Time Points by Patient option before pressing the Export button. If you choose to check the Merge option, you will have at most one line per patient. If you don't check this option, depending on your data, you may obtain a really big table with one line per patient and date time containing data. Here, I choose to check the Merge option and leave the Merge method as default, which is the mean. You can choose another method for merging the patient data, depending on your data. Then I press the Export Time Points to CSV button. If everything goes well, you should see success messages indicating that your CSV files have been created. They will be saved under the MEDprofiles folder in the Time Points folder. You may refresh your workspace to display it. Then you will be able to observe your data directly in the app by double-clicking on your files. The second method to set time points is by classes. Here, you simply have to select the classes you want to associate with a time point under the Set Time Points by Classes option and press the Set Time Point button. Once you have defined all your time points, the other options are the same as before. Here, as an example, I defined 3 time points. The first one is defined by 1 class, the second one by 2 classes, and the third one by 1 class. If you've already defined time points before, a pop-up will appear asking if you want to overwrite your previous time points. If you don't want to lose them, make sure to save them in another folder before exporting your new time points. Finally, if you open your newly generated time points CSV files, in contrast to the ones defined by horizontal selection, you will notice that the columns only include the ones from the class you chose to define your time point. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Feel free to comment if you have any questions. The next video will cover the exploratory module. See you there.